How do you feel about sex? Specifically, how do you feel talking about sex?
It is one of those topics that I think few of us feel very confident about. And in fact, you get to watch me squirm in my chair as we discuss it over the next hour or so. But join Jeremy and I as we talk everything sex.
Welcome back to the Just Men podcast, a podcast about all things masculinity and manhood. My name's Jeremy, I'm one of your hosts, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful
Byron! Oh, I just pulled my headphones out.
Can you still hear things? Are you okay?
Hold on. I can't hear you, Jeremy.
No, we've ruined it already. Anyway, while he's getting that fixed up, welcome back, guys. We're back with another week. This time, we'll jump straight into it. We'll jump straight into the facts that we have a Patreon, everybody. Please jump in if you feel like it. At the very bottom, you can find out if you want to support us, the cost of a cup of coffee. Check out the link. It's the best way to support this podcast. Anyway, this week, Byron, what are we talking about this week and why?
Oh, Jeremy, this is a topic I've been scared to talk about since I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. It's all things sex and sexuality.
Yeah, all things sex, sexuality. We might talk about sexuality separately because I think it's a pretty big topic in itself, but just with sex itself, this was actually one of our first requests that we've got from one of our listeners, so thanks very much for bringing this topic to the forefront. I think it's a tricky one, but it's important to talk about because I think
massively,
as a guy, as a lady, as anybody really, sex is a part of life, and I think sex is not something that we kind of talk about so openly in a healthy way, healthy, constructive way, but more something that we tend to either shy away from, or we say, oh, that's my private life, or it's something that we kind of make fun of if we don't want to talk about it, kind of thing, for various reasons. But the question is why? Why is that such a thing? Why is there such a taboo about talking about it? Or why is it always, schoolyards, flim flam, make fun of it kind of thing? But let's start from the start. Byron, is it something that you personally, discuss, I won't say regularly, but is it something that you discuss openly with confidence, or is it something that you kind of tend to shy away from? What's kind of your personal kind of situation about it? Because I don't think you and I have really had too many open conversations about sex in general, right?
No, it doesn't really come up very often, has it? Because like as you sort of alluded to at the start in the intro, it's like, how do these conversations happen? When are you supposed to talk about it? Even as good friends, what's the importance of talking about it at this point? It only becomes a topic if something's kind of going wrong, and then people, are like, hey, is this normal? And you're like, what do you mean, is this normal? But like my position in terms of, I guess my experience with conversations of this nature, I'm a bit of I can be a little bit shy, I suppose. Like I've learned to, over the years, become more, I've never been afraid to talk about it, but I just don't want to insert myself into the conversation and kind of share my experience in the past, which is it's a bit of a weird kind of thing. But now, especially like with a partner, it's a very important conversation because, you can kind of talk about what's happening, what you like, what you don't like. And hopefully you're doing it with your partner. It kind of makes sense to talk about. But with friends, maybe, right? With family, definitely not. It's a funny conversation to have.
It is. And I think I'm very much similar in that respect too, that with my partner, or any partners I have had, it's definitely something that gets brought up. Like you said, is this something that you enjoy, something you don't enjoy? What's your favourite? What don't you like? That kind of thing. Or like I said with friends, is this normal? Is this something that should be happening kind of thing? Yeah. But even then, I think those kind of conversations are just as rare because it's in the same way we're admitting, this is something that's not right, or this is something I'm struggling with, which, as we know, as guys, we don't like to discuss our insecurities. We don't like to discuss our weaknesses, especially if it's a sexual one, right?
Yeah.
So this would kind of come back to, quite simply, with men in particular, why it's something that we tend to gloss over, why it's something that we tend to not even talk about. And, now I come back to it, Byron, I think talking about sexuality as well as sex in the same vein, kind of really just ties them together, really. Because, okay, as a guy, I can't speak for all guys. I'm not all guys. I am myself. But
You're one guys.
I am one guys, yes. But, sex is something that is enjoyable. It's something that's fun. It's something that I think a lot of guys, especially through puberty, is something that we can't stop thinking about. And maybe we fantasize about it a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, firstly, is that the same experience for you, or is it different?
Yeah, I can vividly remember my sexual awakening as a young lad.
Here we go.
I was like, I'm pretty sure because I was living in Thailand at the time, started thinking about what it would be like.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the thought come from because I had no experience with it whatsoever. And I was like, I know the penis goes in a vagina or an anus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would that be like? So I was sitting on a bus thinking about this. I'm like, I bet you it feels good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, from that point on, like you said, it's something that you become a lot more curious about. You think about, especially as a boy, and that testosterone starts pumping through your body. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, yeah. And then, no one to talk to about it, though.
Yeah. It's definitely not a topic that's easy, I think, especially as a parent, to talk to the kids about either. I never got that talk with my parents. It was something I had to discover and learn about through various sources. So, was that the same for you? Was that the same for you, or you had the talk?
Oh no! Like I think I mentioned this to you in another conversation. So when I was like 8 years old, I walked in on my mother.
Oh wow!
With a partner, and that was a very interesting experience as an 8-year-old child.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, but even before that, when I was about 5, so my mum was a bit of a sexual person. She very much embraced the idea of, sex and sexuality, and I'm sure she had a lot of good times. Mm-hmm. But I remember at 5 years old going through Mum's book collection, and one of them was an illustrated Kama Sutra. And I remember flicking through that, and these images were very detailed. This was my first exposure to sex in general.
Yeah.
And so from that point forward, I knew that this was something humans did. So I kind of taught myself. And then after I walked in on Mum, she kind of was like, all right, well, here's what it is. And to her credit or detriment, I'm not sure which yet, but she was then very forthcoming and open about sex in general.
Right.
So I did get a few talks, and I don't know if that impacted the way that I then see things throughout my life. But anyway.
Interesting. Because I think at some stage we all we get curious, right?
Oh, big time.
At some point in our teenage years, typically. Whether that be through, we see romantic movies and we kind of wonder what happens next, or I think in my case, I'm browsing anime websites or something, and lo and behold, here comes a porn ad. Like it just shows up. But it gets you in the way that's like, oh well, that's interesting. Let's kind of delve further, right?
Yes.
So my question is, so we all get kind of exposed, we all get the thoughts, and we all grow up in one way or another, kind of having to learn about things, and it can be bloody confusing, right?
Oh, big time.
Because it's like, where do we start? How do I start a conversation with someone if this is something I want to pursue? How do I approach this in a way which is both healthy, not intrusive on somebody else, but also in a way that satisfies my curiosity? So how do you kind of have those conversations? Because I think a good first part is just kind of, if you want to, Byron, we don't have to, but just kind of discussing how, in our own experience, we became curious, we learned things, and, what could have gone better, I suppose, in the way that we could have learnt about these things better. Because now as 30-something-year-olds, we can look back on those times and kind of laugh at it. It's like, oh, such a young, unknowing, silly kid kind of thing. But obviously at the time, it was the forefront of our brain. I'm like, what am I doing? Is this crazy? Is this the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? So, look, I'll go first this time because you've kind of...
Oh, shit. I don't mind. Hit me, man. You can hit me. I'm ready for this. Kind of.
I hope so. So for me, it was interesting. Same thing, like I said, ran across those porn websites, and then it's like, oh, this is interesting in my brain, and I couldn't very difficult to see any of my childhood characters in the same way after kind of experiencing something like that, which was really interesting, right? Because now that everything's been sexualized, it's like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, that character's no longer innocent.
Yeah. But in the same way, again, I went to an all-boys school. We definitely didn't discuss anything like that in a way that wasn't like, oh, look at my big dick. Oh, yes, I would definitely do that. So when it came to, exploring that kind of things, well, I'd never even held a girl's hand by this stage, right? I've never even, had too many discussions with girls at all.
Yeah.
So just the concept of like, oh, well, I kind of want to go and experience these things. What do I do? And it took me a while to kind of learning and realizing a lot of things, but the first forefront thing of my mind as a young, I will say, 17, 18-year-old in university was like, okay, to have sex with someone, to have to experience that curious part of the world, you need to date someone and get into a relationship with them and make sure everything's committed and happy and healthy, and then at some stage, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Right? Poor did little old me know that is, especially in the modern world, typically not how a lot of things go these days. And I didn't learn that kind of way of going about things until much later in my late 20s, really. But that was my first kind of thought, and that kind of inhibited me a lot because obviously when I started interacting with girls for the first time at uni, it was on my brain. I'm thinking, oh, this is a possibility that could happen. And a lot of interactions I did have with girls were of a curious nature, of something could happen in this kind of nature. Yeah. But it really sabotaged the way that I interact with a lot of people. Just with having this thought or having these thoughts of some kind, right? So it was interesting. I had a discussion with a friend and it really hit me differently because he said, dude, not every interaction with a girl has to be a romantic one or has to be a sexually charged one. Like you can just be normal friends. And I don't know why, but it really just took a sitting down like that and that statement to really unlock something in my brain to be like, oh, well, shit, you're right. So, again, I had no one to tell me these things, no one to teach me these things. It's just a matter of kind of going through these motions. But anyway, that's part of my first chapter story. Brian, how about you? What happened after you discovered Kama Sutra and learned about things much earlier than you should have?
So what happened? I guess, for the most part, actually, there is one thing early on. You know when you're like in primary school and the kids are all sort of, they get girlfriends or boyfriends and...
Oh, yeah, girlfriends, boyfriends. Yep.
I got a boyfriend, I got a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember probably in grade 4, this girl asked if she wanted to be boyfriend, girlfriend. I was like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. I'm like, I don't know what it meant at this point, right?
Yep.
But my two best friends, they bullied the crap out of me for it.
Oh, Lauren's got a girlfriend.
Right? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, sorry, girl, we can't do this anymore. I don't even know if I said it that nicely. I probably didn't. I probably just ignored her for weeks at a time.
Until she got the end.
No! She's like, oh, I guess we're not boyfriend, girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, well, problem solved. But then the next year, those two same friends ended up getting themselves girlfriends.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. Now, at this point, I was like, nah, I'm not playing this game again. You're just going to bully me. So I was like, nah, I'm good. And then instead of... Because of that, because they now had one, they then bullied me and said I was gay. Like, you're gay, you're
Brian
gay.
doesn't have a girlfriend anymore, you're gay. Wow.
Yeah, so I honestly think from that point, I kind of shut my brain off to interactions with, potential partners, let's call it. And that probably persisted all the way through high school as well. Right? But, in terms of conversations about sex and stuff, like when you talk about, like I went to co-ed schools, but holy shit did the boys talk.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Boys love to talk, right? And maybe it was because we were at a co-ed school. They had more access to finding people who might also be interested in canoodling and doing silly things.
Yeah.
But bloody hell did I learn a lot from the boys. Like just the stupidest shit too. Like I remember at cricket, one of the guys was like, yeah, I did this with my girlfriend, last night. Yeah, it was like we were in the movie theater and and everyone's like, oh, really? What was it like? right? And everyone was sort of like huddled around the campfire, curious, listening to his story and stuff, because he was, he was a big alpha boy, and he was the cool kid and all this sort of stuff. Or another session where the boys were talking about their, forays into porn, and they're like, yeah, I would do a girl this particular way, like, gosh, yeah, and it's like, what? Okay, all right, because admittedly, I never really consumed porn.
Yeah.
Like even as a youngster, I didn't really have access to it. Like we didn't have a computer or something that we could go look it up. I was aware of it and I'd seen some, but I probably got, I'm going to say lucky.
Yeah.
In the sense that it wasn't a big part of my sexual education.
Yeah.
But, going through it all, I kind of repressed the notion that, like, I understood, like you did, in order to have these experiences, you had to find, a person to be able to do it with,
course.
Right? And I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. And throughout high school, I definitely got propositioned a few times. I was just like, I'm sorry, but my studies are important. I'm going to say no. And then it was like outside of high school is probably when I started to go, oh, like you did. Like when you get to university, you go, oh, there's people around. But even at that point, I remember being out at a club one night and this girl was like hitting on me and my mate. And I was like, all right, buddy, you got this. And I was like, I whispered something to her. I was like, yeah, like he's ready to go. Like off you go. And I sort of, like I made sure to deflect it as much as possible.
Yeah, wow.
Because I didn't know how to have a healthy conversation about my feelings with respect to sex.
Yeah.
And I was too scared to, I don't know, try or look stupid or, be found out to be, a virgin or completely.
Of course.
I don't know, innocent perhaps. And so I just avoided it for the longest time.
Yeah, wow. It's really funny because even this whole notion of virginity, and especially as a guy, some people will carry that with shame. It's like, oh, I'm a virgin. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I don't have this experience kind of thing. And it is an unfortunate fact, I think, that guys will suck at sex up until they have practice.
Don't.
Right? Up until they don't. And it's one of those awkward things too that you don't really know how to have that conversation with somebody about it up until you do.
Well, dude, you know what's crazy?
Yeah.
I found out girls talk about sex all the time. Like they're much more open. Like I'm talking about, I'm in my 30s now, right?
Yeah.
And I found out probably in the last year that girls will openly discuss their experiences. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, so when I found out that my experience was discussed, right, in terms of, this was great, or this, this is what he did, this is what he's like, I was like, you told all your friends? What do you mean? What, like, do they know? Do they know what I'm capable of or not capable? Oh, God. And, like, admittedly, because it's a notion that's foreign, like, that was completely foreign to me, I was like, oh, my gosh, wow. But, it was explained that when girls talk about this stuff, they do it from like an experience sharing standpoint, a safety standpoint, and a normalization standpoint. Like, oh, my boyfriend does this or he doesn't do this. Is like, what's your experience? Oh, well, my boyfriend does this, and this is the experience that I've had, and it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should ask him about it or try it, or and so as a result, it becomes a lot less scary.
I mean, those are healthy conversations. They're healthy conversations. For guys, as you can see, it's like, oh yeah, I did this with this girl, and and it becomes
smashed last night. Got some.
That's the whole conversation with the guy, and it's as much of it's a bravado thing as a boasting thing. It's never really productive.
It's never constructive.
Yeah. Because while it might be like, yeah, I did this, did she enjoy it? Like, were you kind of going at it?
Never comes up, does it?
It never comes up.
Yeah.
And I think that's one way in which the conversation does need to change, and something guys can definitely learn from girls in this way is, okay, what happens? Like, did you enjoy it? Did they enjoy it? What parts did you enjoy? Is there something that you can learn? Like, is this normal for you? And I think with male bravado, male ego thing, obviously the only thing that guys typically want to do at the end of the day is be like, yep, I got some. It's all that matters. Right?
Yeah.
And Again, I think that's where the conversation kind of starts and stops in that notion, because as much as they want to say, oh, look, this is the good point, I got some. No bad points. Let's not even talk about it anymore, right?
Yeah, no, it only lasted 14 seconds, but
We
won't
won't talk about that. The fact is, I got some, right? So,
by the way, 14 seconds is fine, guys. It's
yeah,
okay.
It is.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We will talk about this at length in a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing, like, let's if anything, I want to just kind of address this notion of experience and virginity and stuff like that too, because there's a whole Reddit forum dedicated to r/virgin of guys who quite literally circle jerk each other, of being like, oh, I haven't had sex yet. I'm almost 30, haven't had sex yet. Maybe I should just kill myself, kind of thing. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
Obviously, because there's, number one, no problem with not having sex in your life. Some people don't have it ever, and they still turn out to have wonderful lives, be wonderful human beings.
100%.
But at the same time, too, it's like, well, there's a lot of things that you kind of need to address or need to kind of see to kind of understand, okay, what are you kind of missing? Or what are you not doing? And I think, Byron, in this case, you and I could probably have a similar experience in, when it did come to experiencing things for the first time, or how that kind of went about. At this point in time, did you try something different? Did you take a leap of faith? Did you put yourself out there, as they say? What kind of was your experience in this case? After being scared of it for so long, like what happened? What changed?
Well, what changed was I opened myself up to the notion of, one, having a companionship, with a female.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, this is happening. This is nice. It's kind of the whole idea with attraction. I see somebody, I form a connection with them. I think they're pretty, and I think, oh, this is a person that I'd like to spend more time with.
Yeah.
And so, first thing was I actually entertained that notion that I was allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And then, as a result, that kind of blossomed into something. And then over time, you go from holding hands to kissing to extended hugs to sleeping in the same bed or whatever. And then I think, oh man, I've never talked about this, but
breaking new ground together. Let's go.
Yeah. So, oh man, I think I was a little bit tipsy. Like, we'd gone out and got home, and I guess lo and behold,
one thing led to another.
Trying to go to bed. Yep. And then I was like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
All right. So it wasn't, the funny thing is, it wasn't really planned, but it wasn't, fortunately for me, it wasn't a bad experience, if that makes sense.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it was just a normal sort of, I imagine what, a lot of young people kind of go through in terms of this is what it is. But yeah, I do vividly remember when I was younger, my mother said to me, she's like, Byron, sex isn't everything, right? The act of sex itself isn't the be all end all. It's actually quite messy. There's cleanup afterwards. There's things that, that there's beforehand, there's during, and there's after. But the most important thing is you check in and make sure that the person you're with is actually enjoying themselves. I was like, okay.
How old were you when this conversation happened?
Probably 14.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh. Because I guess up until that point I had this, and this is what I mean in terms of that awakening on the bus. I was like, what is it all like? And I imagine, I don't actually remember the conversation that led to it, but I probably asked, right? Because my mum, as I said, my mum was pretty open.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so I probably said like, oh, what is this sex thing, right? And so she said that to me, and that, I kid you not, has stuck with me my entire life.
Yeah, wow.
Right, and I'm fortunate, as I said, I think I'm fortunate I had that experience, because the most important thing for me after that was I always want to make sure that the other person enjoyed themselves more than what I enjoyed myself. So I ask, is there anything I can do better? Is there a way that I can help you feel good?
Yeah.
Did you get what you need out of this? And then if I get I got everything I need, then I feel like I'm allowed to enjoy myself. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, first time was, I don't know, just nothing. It wasn't like, no fireworks went off. Like, there was no big sign around being like, oh my God. And I didn't wake up the next day going, oh, wow, I'm a man. I'm a man now. But, I mean, I was 20. So
interesting.
I was
similar. I think I was 19. I was 19, kind of just shy of that. 19, 20. Interesting. Yeah. Very similar, Byron. Mine was very similar in that I had to give myself permission in the very same way.
Oh, yeah.
Because I look back on it now, and there's at least 2-3 times, went to a party, got close with someone. I remember having my first drunk kiss or something at like 16 or 17. And I remember going into the bathroom being like quite tipsy, being like, Jeremy, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And went out of the bathroom and just started making out again. But again, the whole notion in my brain was you need to be in a relationship with someone before you can have any of any of these benefits, I suppose, of this intimacy. And in the same way, I went to a party, drunk and hook up. They kind of wanted more, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right because we're not in a relationship. And so, same thing, actively kind of turned that kind of stuff down. Up until a point in which I think there was a group of friends that we kind of regularly saw for parties every month or so. It just happened to be like, birthday, Christmas party, another birthday, New Year's party. Like, it was just things that kind of lined up. And in the same way, got tipsy, kind of just slept on the couch together a few times, and then one thing led to another, and no fireworks happened, believe it or not. So, yeah. Then in the same way, woke up, didn't really talk about it, probably should have, but, these are things that we look back on in retrospect. So I think if anyone's kind of listening in is, if you are wanting to be curious about things, I think the first thing you need to do is, give yourself permission. Because you could get stuck in the same trap as me is, it's not respectful, it's not right unless you are in a committed relationship and you're preparing to marry each other. To some people that might be the case, but for a big portion of people who don't know much and they're curious about things, or even if you are experienced, you just need to give yourself permission to say, it's okay to be interested in sex. It's okay to, have these discussions with people.
Yeah.
But going back to it, now that we've kind of fumbled our way through all these first few experiences, Byron, what would you say you would have, could have, should have done better to make, I guess, yourself feel better about the experience and the other person feel better about the experience, and kind of just approaching sex in general, that if you were to do it these days, I know you're in a committed relationship and you're unlikely to kind of pursue those things, but if you were to, how would you go about it differently? Rather than just saying, I need to get drunk, I need to fumble about, and accidentally one thing leads to another. How would you kind of, I guess, make it work better?
I think, how would I make it work better? I mean, it's really tricky because I'm a big believer in forming a connection with a person regardless. Because as I said, for me, sex isn't the be all end all of the experience, right?
Absolutely.
So if I ejaculate, cool. Sorry to anyone who's never heard me say that before, but guess what? You're going to hear me say it.
I said ejaculate. We've both said it now. It's fine.
Yeah. So if that is a consequence of, like, I guess the act, but the act itself for me is a little bit more, I don't know, it's a chance to actually connect with somebody on a deeper level, and not to put too much like spirituality or into anything like that, but ultimately I have a better time if it actually is a back and forth exchange.
Of course.
Right? So if I think about what I could have done differently in the past, it would have been more open conversation about it at the start, right? And I know it's tricky because we live in a world where if a guy is interested in sex, but is not found to be appealing by the other person, if you even utter the word in the direction of someone who doesn't want it, you're labeled as a creep, right? But there's gates that you go through. Like we've talked about friends, right?
Yeah.
You don't go from 0 to 100. And it's the same way in a potential situation where you're, I guess, courting someone.
Yep.
You don't go from 0 to 100.
Yep.
Right? These things do, I mean, if you go out to the club, you both get smashed, and you hook up in the hotel afterward, well, I guess that prospect always terrified me. And I think because, so my younger brother, one of his friends found himself in a similar situation, woke up the next morning and the girl started freaking out.
Right.
Like, and he's like, holy shit, like, what's wrong? And she's like, this shouldn't have happened. And he's like, oh God. And I think for this kid, he was 20 at the time, right? And he started to freak as well. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to jail, right? She's going to say that all this bad stuff has happened. I'm ruined. Fortunately, everyone calmed down, right?
Yep.
They stayed and they had breakfast and kind of like talked it out and
yep.
things like that. But, you know, that's a terrifying prospect for people of this day, which is, I don't know how you get around that, because consent is something that is really tricky.
It is.
And it's something that I personally, even now, if I was going through that sort of situation, I would want to get to know a person a bit more, like on a slightly better level than, hey, we just met.
Yeah.
Right. And that's for my own protection, I suppose you could say.
No, of course.
But I would, if I was to do it all over again, I would probably accept the fact that it's okay, and that you can, as long as the, you know, interaction doesn't leave somebody in a negative space, and, you know, that everyone's on the same page from the beginning about what this actually means, then go for it, man. Bump those body parts together and make sure you pleasure each other, have a good time, and walk away knowing that it's all right.
Yeah.
The world doesn't stop spinning, your life doesn't change, and you ultimately just keep going, keep doing stuff.
It's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I really like what you said from your mum anyway. It's like, look, sex isn't just the be-all, end-all of things. And it's really interesting that you really start to come to that realization, again, once you've had sex. It's not, right? It's like, oh, well, that was a fun thing to do. But, you know, obviously when it comes to relationships, when it comes to long-term relationships, even when it comes to short-term things, there's a lot more aspects about those interactions which are enjoyable than just the act of sex itself. And 100%. I think that's something that people really don't realize up until, you know, they do have sex. So,
and probably not even just once. Like, I swear it takes a few times for that to kind of sink in.
Let it sink in.
Right? Like, because now when I think about, like, the experiences I have now, gosh, I'm sorry to anyone who knows this. Like, listen away now if you get weirded out by hearing about other people. But I think about the experiences that I have now, and, like, we enjoy ourselves a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, to the point where, like, I know that I get all my fulfillment and need from the time that we spend together. Like, I'm never going to be, and I think it is important, especially in a relationship, to understand if you're compatible with the person on a sexual level.
Absolutely.
Right? If you have one person who really, really enjoys, like, sex all the time, but, you know, you're perhaps like, oh, nah, like, no, I'm good, I can go without. And in fact, like, I'll just lie here while you go and do your thing. Then, you know, that's a tricky bridge to cross.
It is.
Like, it's a tricky thing to navigate between two people. If you are so incompatible, then it bleeds out into other things.
It does.
Right? But that doesn't mean to say that you can't make it work. And in fact, that's where the communication piece becomes really important.
100%.
Right? But,
well, if anything, you know, with all aspects of our lives as we get older, we should hope to just keep getting better and better and better. Whether it comes to sexual performance, whether it comes to our communication skills, whether it comes to our social skills, right? Or our physical habits, I suppose, in building ourselves up as a better person over time. Like, everything, ideally, over time should get better. They shouldn't really go backwards until age plays a factor in physical.
You're 75 things. And your dingle dongle stops working.
Stop working. All right, that's a different conversation, okay? But in terms of kind of doing things better, as kind of Byron's explained, it's a really good part to have that communication part with just about anything you do. Just before we get into the long-term parts, I'll just kind of chip my 2 cents about situationships, I suppose. Yeah. One thing I didn't learn until I had, my first time, I think, and then I got into a relationship for the first time, a serious one. And it's like, oh, wow, now I can kind of explore all these things with a partner, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's kind of when I did start to have that realization, oh, shit, there's more to a relationship. It's more to life than just having sex, because ultimately that's why people break up. You can't just rely on sex alone to keep a relationship going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But after that relationship ended, I did start to explore a lot more for the first time. I gave myself permission to say, no, it's okay to, do these things. And there might be people out there who think, well, okay, how do I communicate that to somebody that, we're on the same page, that we're consenting? How do I communicate to someone that, I don't want a relationship, but I do want sex? Right?
Yeah.
What's the best way to go about these things? And I think that's what can get confusing for a lot of people. And I didn't have anyone tell me these things. So I had to learn them. I think a lot of people go online. If you're listening to this podcast, you're online, and you're in a safe space. Don't worry, we got you. But it does come down to communication at the end of the day, like Byron said. And here, look, I'll give you my tips. Here you go. Because if you want to talk to someone in a way that's both, you still want to be charming, you still want to court them, you still want to, see that you still have a chance of something good happening, if that's what you want. But you don't want to seem like, is it okay if this and this happens? You don't want to seem like someone who doesn't know what they're doing. You don't want to seem like someone who's not confident in themselves, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you do it, right? The first thing that I did is, number one, I made a commitment to myself after I had a breakup. Jeremy, don't get into a relationship with the first person that you kind of get with, because that just defeats the whole purpose of this self-improvement journey that you're going on. So the best thing to do is, like Brian said, have communication and be honest. So in this case, when I did start to see someone, good things were starting to happen. We were starting to hold hands or starting to, kiss a little bit or whatever it was. I made it very clear. It's like, hey, look, just before anything happens, I just want to let you know, I'm in a state right now which I'm still finding myself, or even right now, like I say right now, I'm not in a state of finding myself, but I'm in a relationship. If we go further, I'm not in the space where I'm up for any long-term relationships, but I am in the space for dating and having fun. And if you're on the same page with that, awesome. Like, let's keep going. But if you're not, I understand.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do is it's going to be a very straight, I'm on board. That's awesome. Thank you for telling me. Or, hey, look, I don't really gel with that. I kind of want a long-term partnership. If things don't happen, that's fine. It means you weren't compatible at that point in your life anyway, right? So just find someone else who is on board with what you have to say, because if you do it this way, there's no wake up the next morning, we shouldn't have done this. I regret this because I've got a partner and I just cheated on him, right? Because it's a space for you to air out anything that you do have going on, or anything that might be an issue, I suppose. And so just kind of having that discussion before anything even happens is the best place to do it. Does that sound right to you, Byron? Does that sound...
Sure does. I was going to say, you never want to be having a conversation after the fact.
After the fact.
Because then it's way too late, right? And you just... Ultimately, people end up getting hurt when that happens. So you avoid that pain and that discomfort by having that conversation up front. And then, like you said, if it's something someone's not into, there's no false premise being worked on. You're not going to feel... You're not going to feel like you did something wrong, and the other person's going to not feel like they had something wrong done to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So being upfront and honest is just helpful, because I think a lot of guys don't like doing that because it
might ruin their chance.
Ruin their chance with this person.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you know what? If the guys trust us when we say you're better off just doing it up front. You're gonna have a much better time overall, and you're gonna have much better experiences overall if you just have these conversations.
The experiences are much better than because everyone's had post-nut clarity, right? Whether that be in a casual sense or in a relationship sense, because sometimes
or by yourself sense,
or in a self sense, right? Because after the fact that you finish ejaculating, your brain does come clearer of like, wow, that was great, or like, wow, what the fuck have I done? And you never really want to be in the space of what the fuck have I done? And so the best way to prevent any of that is just to make sure that you are on the same page with the person that you are potentially seeing. So
you know what? In terms of this, the preamble to all of this as well, I think there is an art to flirting, I guess.
There is an art to
maybe the
flirting.
right word.
Correct.
Right? In terms of, when the more conversations you have with people, the more you'll understand whether or not there's some sort of chemistry there. And while implied signals aren't go signs for going all out and making sure that you end up having sex, if you are testing the boundaries with the person and they're reciprocating in the same way, you still need to have the conversation.
100%.
Right? You still need to be like, are we going here? Great, let's go here. But boys, here's my advice for you. The bravado and talking up how awesome you are and how, you better be ready to deliver. All right? If you cannot, if you say, oh, I'm going to rock your world, baby, and I'm going to please you like you've never been pleased before, you better make sure you're serious about doing that, right? And understanding what actually does please a person. I can tell you a little tip. Ask them what pleases them.
That helps
that's
a lot.
Go a long way to help.
A lot.
Don't ever assume you know, right? Because again, there's something sort of new I learned. I think it's something like 30% of females actually orgasm from penetrative sex, right? Some females have never had an orgasm in their life. Some ladies prefer it in the backside instead of the front side. You don't know, right? And if you assume that you know these things before you go into the encounter,
You're going to disappoint everyone.
including yourself. Right? You're going to fall short. So, yeah, it's a fine line between confidence and delivery. Is what I'm going to say. If you are not sure that you can deliver, I'll tell you what else ladies like, or at least some of them, they like people who are honest, right? And they don't mind you being a little bit, what's the word? Vulnerable.
Honesty and vulnerability. Beautiful.
I had a good mate, actually. He's going through the dating scene and he's seeing a few different ladies at some times. And, the topic of sex comes up. He's one of the few guys that I can talk pretty candidly with now.
Yeah.
Because I'm older and he's a little bit wiser too. Anyway, so he's like, oh man, I'm not sure. I know she's kind of keen, but, I've got some reservations about these things. I'm like, dude, have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
And so he'll then be like, oh, we spoke and she kind of allayed my fears and, then we talked about it and we had a really good time. And then afterward it was like, how you feeling? I was like, yeah, pretty good. And he's like, oh, it was a lot easier than I thought it was. I was like, well done, mate. Well done. Did you both have a good time? Yeah, we did. Well, you know what? That's a really positive first interaction that you've had in that.
It's a win.
In that sense. So, talking to, I don't think, you know what, you may, on occasion, get that one person. If you're floating around in circles where it's the be-all and end-all of life, get that person who's like, oh, you suck. What a loser. You don't know what you do. I think that person actually is probably a myth, but you know what? No one knows what they're doing.
No one knows. Then look, anybody that you do, I guess, get intimate with, typically, you should know them well enough that you wouldn't want to get into bed with someone like that in the first place if they're just gonna,
correct,
make you feel bad about it, really.
Yeah.
But I think it alludes to, Byron, you mentioned before, it's make sure that they're having a good time before you ejaculate, and that's the I think the best piece of in bed advice that you can really give to any guy, really. It's like I said.
All right. Well, okay. Here's the secrets then, right?
Here we go.
Jeremy, your thoughts on foreplay?
Foreplay is fucking essential. Holy shit! If you're just like, yep, if they're a bit wet and I'm a bit wet, let's go. No.
Hell no.
Oh my god.
Do you know how much fun? You know how much fun foreplay is? You don't even have to have your bits out.
No.
Right? Do you know how much more exciting the whole experience is if there's a bit of back and forth and a bit of
build up, the tension, the banter, the bit of oh, I'm gonna do this. Oh, I bet you want to try, right?
Foreplay, boys. Get good at foreplay.
God, if you're the kind of guy who just wants to, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and just run, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, okay, so
how do you foreplay, Jeremy?
Let's
for
go
people
through this.
who are a little bit unsure. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Look, I learned something. It's like this, particularly, especially with if it's like you got time. It's not a quickie kind of thing, right? Sex should take.
Quickies are fun too, by the way. Just quickly.
Yes.
With the right person, and it's the excitement of a quickie that makes it good. But anyway,
yes,
foreplay.
Yeah. So foreplay. So just to let you know, foreplay should be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. right? Sex should take anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes on like a regular session. You might be thinking, what the fuck? Now, listen. The foreplay itself should be one of, if not the longest period. 10 to 20 minutes. And that can include literally just dirty talking. The number of, there's someone else I saw once upon a time who quite literally just through dirty talking and some touching, that was it. That's all they needed.
Yep,
and
they got their climax.
They got their climax. And this, unfortunately, was the kind of person, and I said to them, oh, what do you like? And they're like, you need to find out. I'm like, oh, fuck. So, when that happens, ideally, or there could be something like, oh, look, I actually don't know. That's fine, let's find out together, kind of thing, right? And when it's like, oh, you have to find out, well, fuck, you better fucking make that foreplay last 20, 30 minutes, because you do need to try different things, right? Different people like different things, okay? Not everyone likes the same thing. So, what does that include? So, number one, dirty talk. Fucking get good at it. If you don't know how to, you can look it up. But it should not be abusive. It should not be derogatory and a put down. That's not dirty talk. Okay?
And it doesn't have to be explicit. The best dirty talking, it can be implied. Right? Yeah, and it's a bit cheeky to the point where you're like, did they mean that? Like the whole double entendre thing. That's fun because again, it creates a sense of curiosity and a sense of like, oh,
yeah,
like maybe. Anyway.
So yeah, the best kind of foreplay is the one that builds tension. Okay. So with dirty talk, okay, so if I think about it really hard, so it can be things that you can talk about, things that you want to do to them, things that you've been thinking about doing to them. You can even describe things that you are currently doing to them with your hands, with your mouth, with your body, right? You can talk about how they're making you feel. You can ask them to describe, what's going on through their head. You can ask them to describe exactly what's physically happening to them right now. So that is what the talking should be. There should be no silence in the bedroom. That's number one, okay?
Yeah.
Number two, Byron, you go to step 2 of foreplay. Let's take this in turn, so I'm not the one talking about how I have sex.
No, fair. Okay, so wait, what? Why not? I was curious. No, so I think there's a lot towards touch as well. And I feel that we want to try and make the other person comfortable, but here's the trick, right? You don't want to make them so comfortable that they fall asleep. Because, like, for instance, like I'm very good with massage.
Yep.
Right, but massage can be really relaxing. And the great thing is, like, it can get to a point, and this is why communication is so good. Sometimes the foreplay is all that happens, right? So the massage might start happening, and everyone's like, oh, this is nice. And it's like, you know what, I'm kind of good. How are you? Yeah, I'm kind of good. You want to just go to sleep? Yeah, let's just go to sleep.
That happens.
And it's beautiful. It is beautiful. And, like, you kind of, anyway. So massage is really good. Like, depending on kind of what you're into, I guess. Some people like a little bit more pressure. Some people like a little bit more, I don't know,
skin
tickling.
Touching. Yep.
Well, anytime that you can skin-to-skin contact is good.
Yeah.
Right? It can be slowly undressing. Like, there's the kissing. There's the hugging. It's kind of, again, it's kind of dependent upon what the other person is sort of into and what you're sort of into. Because, like, I can't say to you, just give your significant other a massage and boys, actually, there was what was that movie? Was it Adam Sandler with the remote? Is it Click?
Click.
Is it called Click or Remote? Yeah. You know how he, like, fast forwards through the foreplay and you see him like, hey, baby, and then he gives her a quick massage and then it's like, done. And, like, the trope is just give him a massage and it's fine. It's like, well, maybe your significant other doesn't like massage.
Yeah.
But, some sort of touch. Touch is, or it can just be talk, right? Like you said, it can be like, you can just be close, no touching whatsoever, and that kind of gets a bit exciting. So yeah, that touch is important.
Touch and talk, I think those are the two biggest things. Because at the end of the day, unlike a guy who just get hard, whoop, you're hard, ready to go.
Ladies, don't do that.
Don't do that. Because for a girl, it's very different. You need to...
It's much more up here.
In the mind. You need to physically be in the space to, I guess, receive a penis. But at the same time, they need to be in the right mindset to receive a penis as well. And that doesn't just...
Here's the other thing I've learned, right?
Yeah.
Is that if they were in their head, because, I don't know, again, dependent upon everybody, but if they're thinking about stuff, there's no way they're going to enjoy what's happening. Right, so you have to actually, it's like warming up the brain in some sense to be receptive to this notion that we're about to be intimate.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, they're not going to want to do it, right? You actually have to invest some time and effort into making them feel like this is something that they are going to enjoy.
Yeah. Otherwise, you will... I've fucked up in my times as well. There's going to be times like, hey, look, I'm not really feeling it. Can we stop? I was like, hey, it kind of hurts. Can we stop? Like, that happens quite literally because you didn't prepare the groundwork. So
yeah.
We
need a lady on here at some point to like talk about this stuff.
Of course, I reckon. Of course.
Yeah, sorry, just quick. I was just thinking about it.
Not just two guys, just like, yep, this is what we've done in our time, Warren. I did this. It's like, oh yeah. So foreplay is the most important, and it should be fun. It shouldn't be like, oh, let's get this over with. No, you should be enjoying the fact that you get to share this time with them.
You're not doing it right if you're not enjoying it.
You're not enjoying it, yeah. But yeah, as I said, 40 to 60 minutes. The first part is the foreplay. Then there's the act of actual sex. But even just as important is the aftercare.
Aftercare.
Because after you finish, aftercare does not just involve, all right, let's clean up and go to bed. No. You need to cuddle with them. You need to talk with them. You need to pretty much still be with them, be present with them. And it's not just like, oh, how was it? But at the same time...
If you think about foreplay as getting you to the top of the hill, right? Aftercare is walking back down the hill.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I like that.
Yeah, you need to... So, like, bring it back to a state of relaxation because we're in a heightened state while we're having sex.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting and all the senses are tingling and the hormones are pumping and the neuroreceptors are firing. So now we need to walk that back, right? And that, the skin-to-skin contact is a great way to go. The hugs. Hugs are amazing.
Hugs are great.
Right? Yeah. Hugs and little, you're getting little kisses and little sniffs and stuff. It's making sure that person understands. My biggest fear has always been that people think that I would just be into them for the sex.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want you to ever feel like I've just used you and your body to pleasure myself.
Yeah.
Because that's I wouldn't want anyone to do that to me. So why the hell would I do that to another person?
It's interesting having different experiences because I've definitely had situationships in which someone quite literally told me, it's like, oh, you into cuddling? Because I'm really not.
That's fine.
And just after that, it was like, all right, cool. So we, did a bit of clean up and aftercare stuff, but they weren't the cuddling or kissing or anything because it was just so casual. It felt really empty. It felt really empty. And so, again, that was just a discovery point in time for me as well. Because it did feel almost transactional at that point in time. It's like, all right, cool. And you're here for one thing, I'm here for one thing, I suppose. And
if that's you, if sex is transactional for you, there's nothing necessarily wrong with you. You just got to make sure that the
other person's on the same page as well.
Exactly. Right.
So it's just so interesting, kind of thinking about how thoughts have changed over the years from not knowing anything and kind of looking back on missed pings or missed opportunities, I suppose. Yeah. But then a part of me is like, well, if myself at that exact point in time wasn't ready to engage in that conversation, then I definitely wasn't ready to engage in the act as well either. So it's I know, because I'm definitely at the stage of my life now, Byron, because I know we're both in committed relationships. Obviously, you're not out there looking to hit the club and do all these kinds of things. I'm obviously still open to dating. But a lot of it is very much like, okay, because I know the values that I'm after. I know the kind of communication that I want with the other person as well. If they're unable to return that in the same way, I'm just not really interested. It's so interesting how kind of, I guess, over time you learn what you like and what you don't like. And, when you meet people who have those things, then, wow, this is great. But I guess just become a lot more picky with the kind of people that we tend to associate with, whether it's in a potentially romantic sense or not. So,
100%. again, you're gonna people learn, and I don't know where people who are listening are at in their journey. I imagine some people have had sex and some people haven't, right? So the ones who haven't had it, when you do have it, you'll kind of see this stuff for yourself. But if you lay the groundwork beforehand in terms of doing all this stuff, you'll probably have a better time and experience, like by going through something that's not as transactional.
Yeah.
But having said that, maybe you just want to, hit the nail on the head and move on. Just don't leave the other person in a worse spot. It's really simple. Those who are having sex and want to explore it, it's have the conversation with whoever.
Yeah.
Right? Sex life improves so much more when you actually talk about it. And then if you're unsure, maybe, Jeremy, we are here to try and break down the stigma of guys talking about it with each other.
Yeah.
Like, what does your missus enjoy? What does she not enjoy? Jeremy, what do you do that's kind of like, I don't know, pleasurable for yourself? Like, do you do this? Do you not do this? Are you a 2-pump chump, or are you a 1 hour long, sniff and stiff kind of guy? The ad. But like there's, it's, I don't know. It's kind of like, how do you like your cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Do you like it milk with 2 sugars? Do you like it strong? Whatever. Everyone's different. But accepting that everybody's different and then being able to talk about it is going to lower, that level of insecurity or fear or shame that you might have around your own performance. Because, you know what? At the end of the day, if the other person had a good time and you had a good time, that's
all that
benchmark.
matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah. It is scary. I'll acknowledge it's scary.
It is. And it's obviously when you think about, could you have a discussion about sex with your close mates? It's definitely a tricky one to have. Because like I said, I knew we wouldn't have time to talk too much about it with sexuality and stuff, right? Because I don't know, in the time that I've been in the cosplay worlds, like that's a very, very, very large chunk of that crowd is LGBT in some way, shape or form. And so I've learnt a lot more about it just being part of that crowd itself. But it's not just, guys liking guys or girls liking girls, but it's everything in between and other things that, I didn't even know was a possible relationship dynamic. But
yeah,
it should be a really important thing to have, because actually, Byron, I went to a friend's party last week, and one thing, because there's going to be people from all different backgrounds there. Not everyone's a cosplayer. Not everyone's a nerd like me. So what do we talk about that's actually fun to talk about, but everyone has in common? And people are like, I talk about work. No one wants to talk about work at a party, so don't talk about work, right? So I usually like to talk about relationship dynamics, right?
Yeah.
And it helps me suss out very quickly, who knows who's single, who's not, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be, again, this is, again, a good approach for anyone who's listening in. You can walk up to someone and be like, hey, what's up? How do you know the host? How do you know whoever's here, right? Or did you come to this clubbing event? Like, we'll go to a clubbing event soon. Do you know anybody else here? Did you come with anybody? I was like, yeah, I came with XYZ. Oh, cool. Are they your bestie? Is this your boyfriend? Is this your partner, right? If they've got a partner, they'll let you know pretty quickly. If they don't, then, they'll be pretty open to things. So, from then on, if they're like, I've got a partner, you don't have to all right, see you, bye. You don't do that, right? You'd be like, all right, cool. How did you guys meet? Was it Tinder? Did she meet you randomly in public? It's like, Tinder, ha ha ha. It's like, all right, cool. Who sent the first message? Tell me this love story.
Yeah.
And so people love talking about how, they got to where they are, and then they'll soon after that, it's a stone's throw away from being like, oh, cool. Like, have you been dating long? What's the dynamic? Are you guys completely monogamous? Are you guys whatever? Right? And it's a good way to kind of open up that discussion. And it's very natural. There's no judgment. And it's a good way to open up these conversations. Very soon you'll be talking about, okay, this is how we met, and they were like this. And you'll start talking about sex. You'll start talking about how that goes on as well. Right?
Yeah.
In the same vein, say they are single. I was like, oh no, I'm just here by myself, haha, not really dating anyone. Okay, cool. Why not? What's your red flag? What's going on here? Why aren't you seeing anyone? Someone as gorgeous as yourself, right? And after that, you start talking about past relationships, start talking about what you like, what you don't like, and then again, drinks are flowing. Soon you'll be talking about sex, right?
Yeah.
It's a good way to have a very open, honest conversation. But for anyone who is interested in dating, if you start talking about sexual topics, it's kind of the natural line of progression to being open to the idea of good things happening.
Yeah.
So
That's get started.
social dynamics and flirting 101 in a club. That's the easiest way to do it. So,
Oh man, we need so many more episodes on this. I think, like, cause it's maybe this is something we can revisit on a regular basis.
I think so, because we're definitely going to have experiences in our lifetime, Byron, or when we get to catch up next in the next few months, we're going to tell some new stories about our life and things are going to happen. And we're like, all right, this happened. We need to talk about this on the podcast because I think it's a pretty important thought.
Yes, agreed.
So,
But
yeah, I think we did a pretty okay job being a little bit
not bad.
open and vulnerable about this topic. I know you were a bit squeamish when we first started talking about it, but I think you warmed up slightly, I hope.
Oh yeah, it is what it is. So can't get away from it. We all know that everybody has thoughts or acts at some times, so
we all get
we're all
boners. Like it's normal.
Not me.
Sometimes, oh, not you. You're a holy Christian man who only talks about him in the nicest sense. But anyway, that's another thing.
that's enough. Yeah.
Oh, dear. Anyway, yeah, if you guys enjoyed this yap, thanks very much for listening this far. If you've got any questions, any suggestions, just send it through to us on our Instagram,
Please
because
do.
that's how this episode came up. We had a request from a listener, which was a great suggestion. So thank you very much for the suggestion. And if you like our vibe, please feel free to consider joining our growing Patreon group at the Just Men Podcast Patreon. Cost of a cup of Australian coffee, no matter how you like it. You can support our podcast. They'll help us keep us on the air for just a bit longer. So,
We'd appreciate you.
anyway, good yap, Byron. Thanks very much for joining me again. And
No, thank you, Jeremy.
thanks everyone for listening in. We'll see you next week.
Hopefully they come back.
We'll be back. All right. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
See ya.